Anything else? No other adjustments? Presentations? Chief Lash, we'd like to introduce our new member of our police department.
Everyone, this is James Mayock. He came to us a couple weeks ago. He's been working for us a couple weeks. He comes to us with about 11 years of experience, mainly in Marine Patrol. So we're super excited to have him on. And he's getting sworn in today.
Welcome. Next one, man.
Yeah.
You want to go up and see this? You met Pam? Show you.
No,
I
but
don't think we have.
I'm the town clerk. Nice
James,
to meet
good to meet
you.
you.
You want me to say it first? Or you want me to- Okay. I, James Mayock,
I, James Mayock,
solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
so long as I shall continue a citizen thereof.
so long as I shall continue a citizen thereof.
I will in all respects
I will in all respects
observe the ordinances of the town of Waldeboro
observe the ordinances of the town of Waldeboro
and the Constitution and laws of the state of Maine, and will faithfully discharge the duties of police patrolman
and the Constitution and laws of the state of Maine, and will faithfully discharge the duties of police patrolman
for the ensuing municipal year.
for the ensuing municipal year. Almost made it all the way through. Almost got it.
You're good.
Thank you.
Welcome aboard. Yeah. Good job. Right down. Chief, is Chief still in here? What I understand, this makes us 100% up to speed. Stop kicking people.
Yeah. Some of the things are more fun on this. Oh, that's right. A number of years ago, the one that was still on, I won, and we were like, I think it's kind of, but, yep. Good to see you again.
Thank you. Thank you. Presentations, we have none, right? Yeah, we just had that one. Public hearing, we don't have any. Citizens' comments, any comments from the citizens that not any subjects that were on the agenda?
Well, comments or?
Yeah, citizens' comments, that's not already on the agenda for something.
Okay, okay, no, it's not on the agenda. I wanted to.
Come on up there.
It's that time of year. It is,
Oh, no.
I know. But it is the talent show. And it's October 25th this year. It really did sprinkle, for anybody who doubts, it really did sprinkle fairy dust on people. I heard from people into January, February, April, May and June, how moved people were and how touched they were and how much it meant to them and how much that they really got that it's about Waldeboro. And Julie always talked from the beginning about Waldeboro needs a hug. Well, the talent show was Waldeboro giving itself a hug. And I just encourage, I'm looking for acts. So if anybody has something to do or would want to sing or dance or get together with a friend, play an instrument, we need you and you're part of the community and we want to embrace you. And the second thing that I'm doing is looking for acts and I can't remember the other. So just join in. All right. Oh, yes. And of course, we will start with the most moving part for me last year, which was standing together in the audience, shoulder to shoulder, and sang the Pledge of Allegiance as we do here, except we're squished in those seats. And as a whole group, I mean, we were the entire theater to listen to saying Pledge of the Allegiance together was very, very deeply moving. All right.
And
Thank-
hopefully our select board chair will be there this year.
And I invite our selectmen because our previous select board member, Mr. Butler, spoke, said a few words about what it meant to him.
Abby
And-
performed, didn't he?
And Abden performed as well as said the Pledge of Allegiance. I'm letting him off the hook this year. But I have a secret plan for the fishing community. So, anyway,
Thank you.
but But the select board, whoever is there to be there, I am asking, hoping that you will be there to say the Pledge of Allegiance and for somebody to say some words about what it means.
We
Thank
have a
you.
very talented gentleman in our EMS, so I'm sure would actually be very entertaining. Right, Derek?
And we have Sam Pennington as the MC again. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments?
And it's at the Waldo Theater. You didn't see where it was.
Yes, it's at the Waldo Theater.
Select board comments. Adam?
I'm good.
Just remind everybody that school has begun. Watch for those buses, watch for students on the sides of the road.
Oh, good. Nothing here.
I just have one thing for the select board. I'm gonna ask you at the end of the meeting. I've had a couple, actually 4 phone calls recently from some individuals to have us look at and rediscuss our marijuana licensing ordinance that we took effect in 2022. The next meeting, an individual would like to come in and talk about it. And possibly looking at a couple of changes to that ordinance, some minor changes. And I'm gonna ask you at the end of the meeting to be able to support putting that on the agenda next meeting. Town managers report.
For those of you that don't know, Fintown Road is closed due to construction. So please seek alternate routes. And as people can tell now, because they put the sign out for 220 South out on Route 1, we've been getting calls. So it's Route 220 South will be closed. After the Fintown project is over, they're not going to be closed together. We're hoping that it's just a week. Knock wood, it's a week. But 220 South will be closed, so you will have to seek alternate routes. It's not going to be one lane, it's actually going to be closed, and there will be a giant hole in the middle of the road, so you are not going to be able to get through.
And that's at what's your box number, 1702?
1777.
So it's just south of just south of
south.
1702 is where it's gonna be closed.
Yeah. So, and I just want to give an update, because this has been a hot topic. The camper that is located at the, Park and Ride. That is state property. The state is working on getting that removed. It has been, all legal action is being pursued by the state. As soon as they get what they need legally, they will be removing it. But it's not something that we can remove. It's something that the state's responsibility it is to remove. And they are working on it and they know about it.
Okay. Need a motion to, hear a motion to approve this consent calendar.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion?
Yeah. You're holding it in your hand,
I'm
so I
holding
want
it
to
in
know
my
what
hand.
that is, because it's on here and I haven't
It's
seen that.
pretty awesome. I don't know if you'll remember, but about almost a year ago, the select board approved an Eagle Scout project down at
Marine Park.
Marine Park. And we've been invited to the Eagle Scout Court of Honor for Dylan Harvey. It's Sunday, September 14th at 2:00 at the Second Congregational Church at 252 Main Street, Warren. I will send this out to you, but it's a great ceremony and celebration. And also, an item is the Lincoln County Budget Advisory Committee. Every year they ask for a representative from the select board to go to their county budget meetings and participate. And they are asking that we send one of you. And the caucus is September 11th at 3:00 PM at the Lincoln County Courthouse. They'd love to see all of you at that, but
Thursday.
that's Thursday at 3:00 PM. But if not, they'd like to see at least one of you and then one of you to attend all of their county budget meetings. It's actually it's very informative. I know Abden's done it, Mike's done it,
I have not.
you have not done it. So if we have somebody who would like to go and volunteer to do that, that would be great.
I need to look at my work calendar.
Okay.
Tentative.
They have the dates for those,
Yeah.
the budget meetings?
I guess they'll tell you that day because they do not have the dates for those.
At the caucus, they're gonna tell us?
Yes.
Can't make the caucus. Could be interesting to me there at that meeting, but
Being
It'd be very interesting for you.
retired, I guess I can go.
Okay, Mike will go. And there's nothing that says two of you can't go, just three of you cannot go. So you could always go along just for the fun of it,
I might.
just for Thanksgiving and Christmas, more entertaining for you. That's all.
Any more discussion in regards to the consent calendar? Good catch, Becky. All in favor? Against? Abstain. Becky, did you raise your hand?
I did. I'll wave more vigorously next time.
New business. 10.1 warrant question for the November election. Town clerk?
You might want to hold that off till the end. You might have one, or might not.
We don't
Oh, true,
currently have any, correct?
true.
No,
No,
we don't have any. Jimmy.
so there's nothing right now, there's no political.
Well,
There's a state
state
question.
question. There'll definitely be a state
State
question.
question with the,
The state question is in regards to voter
Voter
ID. With another multitude of facets to that question, so I encourage you to go read the question before November.
There's a second question as well.
Oh, I was only aware of the first one.
It's a red
Red
flag
flag.
law
red flag law.
question.
So we'll probably have a high turnout. The other thing that we'll probably address at our June meeting is we might have to amend our sex offender ordinance. Because the larger feet distance did not get passed by the legislature, so we might have to reduce it. So
Talking about the June referendum.
the June referendum. Unless you wanted to take it up at this one, but if they actually do something about it, then we'll have to have it again in June.
10.2 committee appointments, the Shellfish Committee. Who's our nomination committee is Abden and Ruben, right?
Yep. You can do it, Ruben. I just read what's on the thing? Yep. I've never nominated before in public.
Well, that's why I wanted to
It's
do
so
it.
much pressure. Oh, looks like we'd like to nominate Tanya Blodgett and Conrad Winslow to the Shellfish Committee. Seems like they'd be a great addition. Is that a motion I have to make?
Yep. you
I'm
just
gonna
did.
make that motion. There we go.
I'll second it.
Motion's made and seconded. All in favor? Against? Abstain? I'll abstain.
Fair enough.
Old business. 11.1. Before we start off on 11.1, the code violation, Lady Slipper Lane. I just wanted to, I kind of let the meeting get off the rails a little bit last meeting, and please tonight, please point all your questions and comments towards the chair or not direct to each other, and so we can move forward and be cordial in this subject. Mark?
Apologize, I just finished this up. It's been one of those days. These are some pictures if you wanted to pass around, and that is one for each one. This morning, myself and Chief Booker went and did a reinspection. We had two select board members with us, Becky and Ruben. Thank you for coming along. I appreciate the support and getting eyes on things as well. Going down through what I tried to do is the Exhibit A list is, the same format as what I've done before. The original violations and then, to the right, green indicates that there's been some improvement. Red indicates that there's still some work to be done. I can go down through each one if you would like. There is a lot of work that has been done. There is a lot of work that still needs to be done. There are some areas that we stumbled upon. It looks like people have been dumping. I don't know if it's new or rather we just missed it because it was back of some property, but furniture, things that were just being discarded and lots of it. And there's one photo, but it doesn't really capture the full extent of it. So there is a photo in there that shows the dumpster that was rented that is full. And it needs to be emptied and we need to continue. So there are still, when I went through, I got a count of 4 vehicles that are unregistered, uninspected, that are on the property still, that need to be removed. By state statute, Fred is allowed only 2 on the property. We had a discussion about that before, and my thing is, it's very difficult for somebody to say, well, you can have one, but your neighbor can't. The recommendation was that if you don't allow anybody to have it, well, you don't have to worry about who are the 2 that are gonna have it and who's not, and get into squabbles that way. He's over the limit anyways by 2. I did get a text from him earlier that a unregistered pickup was removed. I did not get a chance to go back over there and redo that, but that would put it still at 3, still in violation. So I'm more than willing to, if you want me to go line by line through this, but I think that you can basically take a look. So some of the things that I was surprised at, I met with him last Tuesday and we walked the whole entire park, including it behind all the trailers and stuff like that. And I pointed out everything. And I made it abundantly clear, I can't continue to come back on a daily basis to check progress and point to stuff and say, this is trash, this is not trash. A lot of it is common sense. It's, you know, if it's a bald tire, it's not gonna be used in an automobile. It's junk and it needs to go away. I can understand if it's a snow tire and somebody's swapping it out, I get it. I'm willing to concede that. But I mean, there's certain things that he has to take responsibility and ownership on and making decisions on what it is and stuff like that. The one thing that didn't really get done to my satisfaction, I was disappointed at, it's an easy fix, is there was the sewer leak site. And he did put some gravel down as recommended to cap off. He didn't, when I went out there on Tuesday to do the inspection, it was minimally done. I explained to him and offered to show him the photos of the area. And I said, every low-lying area was pooled and that needs to be covered because it was contaminated soil. And he got, you know, more of it done, but still there's low-lying areas and Becky actually walked out there with me to take a look, and you know, I thought it was pretty clear as far as what the expectations are. But unfortunately it wasn't completed, you know, the way that it should. And my fear has always been, and I think it always will be, that this can be a perpetual type thing if it's not kept under constant supervision. And it just, you know, the culture needs to change as far as what it is. There are some very great people in that park, very responsible. I've met some very nice people doing the inspections. And, you know, there's some people that applaud what we're doing. You know, trying to clean it up so that they can enjoy, you know, their surroundings as well. There's still some, another violation that is not fixed. We measured, there's a trailer that abuts the 50-foot buffer strip. The agreement that we had was we measured it. We found out that it's 52 to the trailer, so he doesn't have a lot of room for anything else, and everything else can't be in that buffer. That would include, he had two oil tanks that were there that had to be moved around to the side and so that they wouldn't involve anything in that buffer strip. He got one moved, but he's still got the second one there, and I have no idea. And there's still some stuff there, and there's still trash out front. So again, we've made progress. I don't want to sound totally negative. We're moving in the right direction, but there's still a considerable amount of work that needs to happen.
I actually, since the last meeting, I've read a lot of correspondence on this subject. Sunday morning, I watched the videotape of the 2019 meeting, and I was hearing a lot of things in that meeting that I was hearing 2 weeks ago. I did go through the park yesterday afternoon. Fred saw me drive through, but he was busy on his tractor trying to push stuff down on the dumpster. And I could see that you would.
My hearing's not real good.
I said, I saw you yesterday. I drove around the park. I drove through.
Yeah.
And you were on your tractor. You had your earmuffs on and you were loading stuff in the dumpster.
Yeah,
And we talk about the buffer strip, and it's very obvious that people have been using that buffer other than a buffer. So that's concerning for me, and I didn't notice what that particular mobile home is with the oil tank.
It's pretty much the one that's on the further side that, if you were to come up and take a left-hand turn and then go around that next corner, it's that first trailer that's right there. And we did measure that, and we did find that, it's 52 feet to the trailer. So that, like I said, there's not supposed to be anything within that 50
Yeah,
feet.
that's concerning for me, that the buffer strip, the initial plan was that buffer strip was a buffer strip, so. I don't know, in 2019, they asked for a recommendation to have a stockade fence or a fence put up instead of the buffer, which would be obviously be a good option too down the road. That way you can keep the trash from going into the neighbor's property and the people from wandering in the neighbor's property or using that buffer strip as a camp out area.
It also gives you a clear measurement. You put a fence there.
True.
That's marked.
True.
You know,
Yeah.
they'll measure every time.
That's Derek Booker, our health officer speaking.
Anything else from the board?
On lot 3, I don't see any red text. I don't see anything in the box.
Oh, no, lot 3 was cleaned up.
Okay.
Yep.
Was the one that passed.
All right, I just wanted to make sure I understood.
Yes, sorry. Yep. And what's this? 16 as well. I missed that one.
Has there ever been a time where this site was considered compliant?
Not in my 2 years, but I know that Stan has had issues in the past, so I can't speak for greater than 2 years.
Okay.
But
Not
I
in
know,
my 8 years.
that's my question is, what's the next step? What's your recommendation?
we can't, we gotta continue to move forward. The only thing that really I think we're clear on what the understanding is and what needs to be done. I can't run up there every week or other week or whatever and spend, all this time on here. I'm getting backlog right now, having to, write reports and all this other stuff, and it's taking a lot of time. And I think that, yes, I can go up there, we can do inspections and stuff like that. But at some point in time, we know what needs to be done. It's clear, but there needs to be some supervision and constant, somebody policing that to make sure that it doesn't go back to the way it was. That's, I think, part of the problem is it's always reverted. You can clean up one lot, but then all of a sudden it's like when we went out there and we walked out back of a trailer and it's like, where'd all this furniture come from and, you know, stuff that's been thrown away. We didn't notice any of that. Did somebody move it from an existing spot and put it there, or perhaps we just missed it? I don't know. But I mean, there's a lot that still needs to be done. And I think we need to continue to, you know, enforce that and bring it into full compliance.
I was just gonna call on you, Fred, ask you to speak. A lot of the problems at that park are caused by a very few. I will say more than a few, but a minority. What progress have you made with them, Fred?
Well, this is my notes from 2 weeks ago. And I want to compliment you for helping us. You've been very helpful.
Thank you.
Explaining to the tenants what you want. And there were some permits that were needed. I don't know if people ever got them, but you weren't here Wednesday and you were sick Thursday. I came down to try to get one of the permits. Some of my tenants are stern men and they have to go when the captain says go. So I don't know how those got resolved. There were 3 unregistered vehicles removed. There's 20 yards in the dumpster right now. I made 3 trips to Jackson's junkyard, and I even have the checks with me. And I'd say there was another 10 yards of miscellaneous stuff that came out. Okay, we had a lady on 27 who would not bring in a couch and a refrigerator that's been sitting out there for 2 weeks. And it isn't junk, it's good stuff, she says. We would have hauled it off, but she says, no, it's coming in. This is kind of some of the problems I'm running into. This lady has other problems though, and that'll get resolved. I think we had a little misunderstanding on a second oil tank. That can easily be remedied. I'm not sure where this furniture, but I personally went behind every trailer, and this is possibly something that just came in the last few days.
Well, that's why I said I don't know if it was moved, because neither one of us remember seeing that pile. If you go,
What lot are we on?
so if you round, you take a left and you're heading up that way, it's
Towards the buff zone?
it's between the first 2 trailers. Go down towards where the septic field is, and all in back of there is,
Okay, well, this is
there's
something
a lot
that
of
just,
stuff.
that just showed up,
Right.
okay? Let's see, I have found a gentleman that's been helping me, and we made great strides. I've spent over $1,000. I don't regret spending it. I'm not upset about it. And the only other thing that I wanted to say to the board was, previously, before the August 1st deadline, the heat just wiped me right out. I'm 74 years old, and it just wiped me out. That's all I can say, and that's the truth.
Well, Fred, you didn't answer my question, which was what's happening with the people that are the problems? And I'll give you a specific example. You said that you were going to shut off, or you were going to evict certain tenants that didn't have electricity. And
Right,
you might say, well, what if they don't have electricity? Well, if they don't have electricity,
okay, I'll address
if they
that.
don't have electricity, then they're not gonna have water, which means that it's gonna be a public health impact because there's gonna be
Right.
human waste on the site.
Okay, so I got 4 tenants right now without electricity. I put to you guys last time I was here that they have to have electricity. And on the 15th of this month, it'll be the 30 days. This is a new rule in my park. On the 30th, I can start giving them eviction notices for not having electricity. And by law, we have to give them 45 days to get electricity. And at that point, I can take them to court and evict them for not having electricity. And this will get rid of 4 big problems that we have in the park, because these people do not prioritize having electricity, having their life in order at all. And without getting into why, but it's pretty clear to everybody in this room, it's drugs that's causing these problems. But I still have to comply with the law for for manufactured housing law.
Well,
So-
this is gonna be particularly frustrating because the clock hasn't even started ticking. It's September now, month and a half from now. It'll be,
I understand.
it'll be November and the cold weather is gonna come. What judge is gonna throw people out then?
This is the problem I've always had is that the judges, you go to court and you try to get a understanding. But if they don't have electricity, the water is gonna freeze.
I know all this, but you got to take care of this somehow.
Well, they're paying their rent, so I can't evict them for the rent. And I tried to remove some other cars, and we were told by the police department that we can't just tell them, give them notice that your cars are unregistered. You can't do that. So we were stifled there with a couple of cars on one lot. This is number 5. We were trying, and so I'm working as best I can within the parameters that I have. And if I go to court and I haven't had 30 days on a rule change, it's not effective. If I don't give them the 45 days, which is really strange because manufactured housing laws, you can evict people after 30 days for non-payment of rent, but for these other issues, they get 45 days. I don't understand why the legislature did all this, but this is what landlords who own mobile home parks have to do. And I have to, if I get into court and I haven't followed the rules, the judge is gonna throw it out and it's not gonna happen. That's basically it. And I've gone to court every time and you go in, they put you with an arbitrator. If you reach an agreement, you go back into court, you have reached an agreement, the camera comes down and now you have a judgment. You leave the court and whatever you've agreed on, that is the law. And then you go forward. If they don't do it, then they get foreclosed, they get thrown out and it all happens.
But it's another hearing again.
No. No, once they get,
So you make the decision that they haven't held up their part of the bargain.
yeah, when you're in arbitration and then you get a judgment that day in court. And then when you,
This doesn't sound
We're
right. There's
going
gotta be a
outside.
judge.
well, I'm trying to explain it the best I can. The judge comes down and he agrees with the agreement. He says, this is gonna be it. You say you're gonna be out in 2 weeks, you say you're gonna pay the rent in 2 weeks. If you don't, I go back to the court and I can get a writ, and then they have 10 days to get out, and that's it. And I evicted this lady at number 3 just recently, and I went through all that.
It's okay. So after the last meeting I've had an amazing amount of conversations with tenants in the park. What I have learned from that is there are rules that are handed out there's no rules essentially, or if they are handed out rules, that might be good for 2 weeks. It's the stories I heard were unbelievable. Some of the stories I can't even repeat in public.
No.
And I won't, I promise.
Thank you.
I'll be well behaved. If you want to know the stories, you should ask me though, because in private, I will definitely tell you the stories. But I don't know if you have a law degree, but I think it might be worth it if I called the MMA and found out exactly how you do this. But one of the most disturbing things I found is that the representation of what we're trying to do to the tenants is significantly different than what we are trying to do for the tenants, which is give them a safe place to live. And I think that's, if we read what Fred left on the desk last time, it was basically, we're making people who have no electric get thrown out of their homes, which isn't what we're here to do. That's between Fred and the tenant. We certainly don't advise that. We have nothing to do with electricity. But I think there is a huge disconnect in what is said to the tenants from the owner of what our expectations are. I know that you spoke to several people and clarified things. I know I spent an inordinate amount of time clarifying things. Again, time that is spent specifically on this one landowner in town. Time Mark has spent in the last 2 weeks, time I've spent in the last 2 weeks. So first of all, I think you need an attorney. I'm gonna say this, I'm gonna just keep saying this. I think that when you're talking about eviction and you're talking about what legally has to be done, I think it behooves us. Because somebody can stand up and say something, it doesn't make it factual and it doesn't make it right. So I think if the select board would like, I can find out from MMA exactly what the procedures are. There definitely has to be rules, and I would request, if I were one of the select board members, a copy of the existing rules for that park.
I can come up with those.
And I incidentally requested them from 2 other parks in town today, and I got them right away. It was instantaneous. So I guess the 2 things I want to say is, one, to the tenants who called, we heard you. I heard you. It's very easy to paint people who are down on their luck in a certain light. And I think I agree with what everybody said here. There are people who are desperately trying. There are people with children in that park that are desperately trying. And there is a way to do this in a mindful, respectful way. And I don't think, Fred, you figured that out yet. And I know that's harsh, but that's the reality. But there has to be something that makes the neighbors to the property and the residents in the property feel safe in their properties. And that needs to be the goal here. People deserve to be safe. They deserve to live in an area that doesn't have trash and dirty needles and drugs and all of those things. And I know that stuff happens. But Fred, it's your responsibility. That's what it comes down to. You own the place. It's your responsibility. And I urge the select board. This is the most action, as little as it is, that I've seen in the 8 years I've sat in this chair. I urge you to keep what you've put in place. Because obviously this is the only avenue we have, because it's the only time any action has a significant action. And it's not even, to me, that significant. And it cost you $1,000. Hey, I mean, on a monthly basis, there's 30 campers in there. You're making at least $600 a month. That's 18,000. You go over, you're over $200,000 of profit out of that.
I'm not worried about the money. I'd like to make you people happy.
Well,
And I'd
then,
like to make
I
my
think one
tenants
of the
happy.
things that might make us happy is you not out there in the heat doing the work, but spending the money and hiring somebody to.
I
come
have
in
been
and do it.
hiring people. It's hard to find help in this climate. though. But I'm not complaining about,
But
I have people
what
that
I'm
are
saying
working for
is,
me.
I think that the select board, you have to keep what you set up at the last meeting in place. There has to be accountability, and the only way to get accountability is through the fining. And you know, that's all I have to say.
Derek?
So it was touched on briefly by Mike, I think, and I just want to echo. It's gonna get cold here pretty quick. And outside of our code stuff and health officer stuff, you know, manufacturing home, folks from the state also have their limitations as well. But I'm telling you right now, walking around that park today, it's not ready for the cold by any stretch of the imagination. So Julie and I can tell you how many phone calls we took on a regular basis last year about people being cold in this town, right?
And in that park.
And in that park.
You should come to the mic so people can hear you.
So I'll talk louder. So, you know, I just think it's important that some of those situations across the board get remedied through our actions now, because even if we can't touch the trailers, we gotta figure out a way to clean the park up and make it safe, and hopefully subsequently make it warm. You know, cause it's gonna be a long winter if we don't.
well,
Right.
what I would say is, there's 4 tenants right now that don't have electricity. and they're either gonna be evicted, or the town needs to find help that they can get their electricity on, so they can keep their water on, so they can have heat in their trailer. And this is a problem, and that's what I'm saying. I've already tried to evict them if they don't get the electricity, but maybe the town should come up with some help for these people, because they need to be warned, just like your health officer.
Have these folks, no, hold on a second. Have these folks come to the town?
I'm right here. Number 27 with the couch and the fridge.
Go ahead.
And I'll take the fine for that, 100%, because I didn't bring it in. He tried to call Mike Thayer to bring it in for me. I'm over my chip thing. I do not think that he needs to, outside of chip services, be at my house hauling in a fridge and a couch for me, okay?
I was willing to do it,
I had a leak.
to help.
I know, but that was unnecessary. And yes, I did not bring it in. I had a different issue, okay? So he cut 3 of our water lines. He cut mine at 7:30 in the morning last year, right at the bell. Right at the bell. 3 of ours. He turned off the power and turned off all the water for the park. The reason that my leaks, which were fixed before, that they started again, and I'm not the only one. Most of us had leaks in last winter because he turned off the water Christmas Eve, for instance, all day long, because he didn't know where the leak was. Number 3 is cleaned up because he just evicted, it's a 7-day rip, not a 10, because you just did it, and you did it for Shannon, and I have text from Shannon saying that you guys were doing that to get rid of her sister Faith in lot 3. You knew that Shannon didn't live there, so she can't even go to the court. They can't go to the court and say, hey, let me appeal that, because it was not a proper eviction, but the PD backed it. So he turns off our water, and then we end up for a whole day because he doesn't know where it is. The only washerman you have, there are 2. One doesn't even officially live there, and the other one just moved out, and that'd be the one you accidentally turned off his meter last week. I don't have power. And I only don't have power because there is a name problem that I have to prove to the utility commission that this person with this name is not the same person with the name. So I have to send in paperwork, and they have a 10-week period. My rent is paid a week ahead of time for that lot. He looks in my windows, my kid's window, sorry. The other day when he was there with you, or not with you, when he was there with the new person he has working for him, okay? He was busy checking my oil meter, because I was next door, looking out the window to see it. I'm sorry, sir. He comes here and he lies. He tells us that it's you. You guys are forcing him to come to the selectmen meeting, and that it's you that wants to evict us for no power. It won't matter if we have power, because he just shuts off the water all the time and then he has someone who's not even a plumber cutting the line. Now, Larry Wellman, he told me Larry Wellman was not allowed in the park. I was friends with him. He stayed with me at one point last year, okay? I know not everybody likes Larry, but Larry's been good to me. So for 8 months, I went with no water because he had another tenant who's recently moved, who's also not a plumber, cut it at the line. I had to call him at 10:30 at night and say, why are you under my trailer? It's not me. Well, you're sitting in your truck in front of my yard. I have a witness here for that too. Why didn't you knock on the door? Who's under my truck? Well, I'm just looking for a leak. He turned off the water to the park. He does this multiple times in the middle of the winter. 7:30 in the morning, I wake up, I didn't have a chance to call Chip, and I was not over my Chip funding that. And actually, I'm not sure if it was you that showed up. I think it was that time, and I said, you'd have to check my valve. The water was turned off. It's that whole side. You already fixed the other side for me. The whole side now is gone. It's cut. A whole other pipe. He did it to 3 of us. So I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do if I don't have an opportunity to call, because Chip would have fixed that leak. It's possible for me to turn my water off. I could have gone next door. There's an option to turn off just the 2 of us together. Connor and Michaela would have been okay with that, knowing I had a leak and I was going to drain the well. He didn't give me that chance. I wake up to him cutting the line. He's not a plumber. neither is the person working for him. Larry came back to the park for 24 hours, fixed all 3 of our water, then he rehires him. After he told me I couldn't have Larry at my house or I'd be evicted. He told all of us that. But Larry was terrified to come to the park. So at the end of the day, I will take responsibility for my yard. I will take responsibility for that couch and for that fridge. You can find me today. Absolutely, I should have pulled it in. I wasn't done with my house. Because I am trying to get rid of a ton of crap in there. Because I haven't had water, or not water, but because I haven't had heat, don't have hot water and stuff. I'm doing like a full clean out before winter and just checking stuff. And I didn't put it out because I don't have a vehicle to bring it down. And I didn't want to create any more problems for this inspection, okay? So I told him I'd bring it in. That is on me. I will take that fine. But I am not taking responsibility for the things that he has done, and none of us are, for the things that he has done, where he's blaming you guys to us, and he's blaming us to you guys, when he's cutting lines, touching meters, peeking in windows, because I don't answer the door, and telling me I can't have, when Larry was a licensed plumber still then, couldn't have him there because he was mad at it. He's mad at him now. That's why he hired a different tenant. And that tenant's not a plumber either, so I hope he ain't touching it.
So one of the things I want to stress, just that was brought up, we
I'm not
have.
a drug addict either. I'm gonna say that.
We have a wonderful community navigator, Karen Ann Hager. So if anybody, and we get a lot of these requests, has any issue with their electric, there are services that the town offers that can help people who need help with their electric. It's not instantaneous. Everybody wants it that day, unfortunately. But
She's really awesome, actually.
she is actually very
She's
awesome.
So awesome. and
But-
so helpful.
So if you have those issues, call the office. You can go on our website. Community navigation is there. We do our best. Sometimes it's not as immediate as you want, but and I know it's always very difficult. You have to exhaust all local resources before we can go on to the next. So please take advantage of that. So we already do that, Fred, for a lot of residents.
Becky.
So one of the key things that I just heard is that we have this triangulation thing going on where the select board is blamed to the tenants that we are insisting that they do something. We've not asked them to do anything. We've asked you to do it as the property owner. How you enforce that and whether you take care of it yourself or whether you create a rule that means the tenants have to take care of it is up to you.
Correct.
But you come here and blame the tenants, and then you go back to the tenants and blame the select board. And the bottom line is, you own the property and it's your responsibility. And what we want to see is you take care of this property so that the tenants and the neighbors have safe, appropriate places to live and aren't without necessary services. However you set that up is up to you. But it needs to happen, and this is a start,
I understand.
but it is not a completion, and it needs to move forward.
Can I speak?
Go ahead.
The issue we have when the winter weather comes is that if there's no heat in a trailer, the pipes freeze. When the pipes freeze, they break. And then the whole system runs on 2-3 horsepower pumps. We're getting into way more detail but if a trailer isn't ready for winter, it's a liability to every other tenant that's in the park. And the minute they don't have electricity and they aren't heat taped and insulated, they are a hazard to everybody. So the water lines are 4 or 5 feet deep. I built this park. They come up, where they come up through the ground, there's heat tape around it, and then all the areas going to the trailer. So when we get to a situation where it's freezing at night, my choices are to disconnect the shutoff and blow that line back, and I have to get the other tenant that's 2 on a shutoff, blow them back and shut that off. And until that tenant that doesn't have electricity or heat tape working, it's gonna just keep breaking the pipes. And I have 6,000 gallons of water in my building that's treated, have excellent water. That pump doesn't know if a faucet's open or a toilet's running. It just keeps pumping the water. And then when there's no water to pump, people are going, Fred, shut the water off. Well, there's no water to pump. And that's what's happening. They don't really understand what's going on.
Right, I'm gonna interrupt you. We understand all that, but it's your responsibility.
Well, I'm trying to protect the water for the 27 people who have electricity, who do want water, because everything is working fine and they're up to snuff. And I wouldn't have thought you need a rule that you've got to have electricity to live in the trailer.
By now, you should know that you need
I had
it.
no
By now, you should know that. By now. you
This is the
should-
first year, I've been 18 years that I've had people without electricity, with people stealing electricity from Central Maine Power. This is the first time this has happened in 18 years. We never had this problem.
You've got trailers without skirting. If they don't,
Again?
you have trailers out there without skirting. You should be getting a very clear picture in your mind of what your tenant landlord agreement should be. And you should be coming up with a comprehensive tenant landlord agreement that covers all of these potential issues. So that all of that stuff is in writing and all of your tenants have agreed to it. And then you need to take care of business.
And I've already given them a letter this year. I do this every year, reminding them to have their skirting ready, to have their heat tape up to snuff. I do this every year to remind people. And the reason I do it around September or August, this is a time of year to crawl under a trailer, not in December.
Right. We've heard all this.
Okay, well,
We heard this in 2019 when I watched the planning board meeting. And before, I'm gonna let this young lady here speak, that's had her hand up for a while. But it's like, we've heard this. You can send a letter out every year. That's great. A good reminder. But what does your lease agreement say that you signed and your tenant signed when they first moved in? You don't have one, right?
I don't have a lease.
Well, you need to have
You
lease
need one.
agreements. Like I said the other
You
day,
know,
you need to have a
That's-
lawyer.
That's, every landlord can decide if they want to have leases or not.
Well, this is what's biting you in the butt right now, is you don't have a lease agreement. So you have no.
Well, I have
understanding.
rules and I'm making them harder.
But they have to sign it and you have to sign it, so you all agree what the rules are. Go ahead.
Okay, so, sorry, we get a little off topic of what I was gonna ask about, but when we're talking about Chip and, helping us with like our skirting and stuff like that and electrical and stuff. I tried calling Chip before, and a lot of our trailers in the park are, older than what you guys will help with. What do we do after that? Because mine's past that limit. I can't get any assistance for skirting or electrical or anything else because you guys won't help.
Well, I don't know the specific instances that you're talking about, but I've worked on some pretty old trailers, including one down on Gross Neck last summer.
Yeah, I know.
That was just unbelievable.
I've heard of people getting assistance, but then they tell me they went through Chip. So I try and go through Chip also, and then I'm told no, because I don't meet the requirements. And their trailer's
There-
way older than mine. I mean.
There are requirements. I don't know whether it is an age requirement or not, but I don't think there is, because I've worked on some pretty old and quite frankly dilapidated trailers.
Now,
There may have been some other reason, but I doubt it was the age
so
of the
just so
trailer.
everybody's clear, the town isn't CHIP. Mike volunteers for CHIP. CHIP's a separate organization.
Right.
But I can definitely get you in touch with Brittany at CHIP. Have you talked to Brittany? And
I have once before.
yeah, definitely talk to Brittany and definitely reach out also again to Karen Ann. But she may have, there may be other avenues to pursue for that.
Okay.
There's other ladies been waiting.
Okay. As for the lease agreement or whatever, when I first moved into the park, you did indeed have a lease because I have a copy of it still.
But that's years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why is it the same though?
Yeah, exactly.
Why wasn't it redone?
None of ours are the same.
I have a
They're
lease.
all different.
My neighbor who has lived there a while, he also has a lease agreement, which is totally different from mine. So there used to be one. I'd like to know why there isn't one. There was a lot of park rules. We weren't allowed to have certain things up there. There's all those things up there. So I wanna know why and why the lease agreement was never followed or revamped or renewed and made people sign it again and I think it should be done.
Go ahead, Fred.
What I'd like to request from the board is that I get an extension, and you have a list, and I'd like to get a copy of that, what more work needs to be done. And meet back with you in a month, but have an extension till my limit with the states, because I got a lot of things to deal with. And I want to get all of this done, and that's what I'm requesting. I'm not asking for anything else, just a little more time. And a little, you know, I thought that area that we filled in was adequate. Obviously, it needs more dirt there. You know, it's hard to know you're accomplishing what he sets out. And I'm not blaming Mark. He's doing a great job. But again, there's a lot of unknowns here on what's what and what's what. So the biggest problem that I have had, and I don't have that list, but there's people that in the park, and they've come out and said, I'm gonna put all what I want here, and you haul it away, and I did. But there's still stuff left there that I would love to haul away. And I'm on one hand, if I start taking this stuff and they call the police and say, Fred's stealing my stuff, I'm in a tough spot. That's about all I can say.
Do you own the land?
Pardon?
Do you own the land?
I own the whole trailer park.
So if somebody litters on your land, are you not allowed to pick it up?
Well, it isn't litter. I have no trouble knowing what litter is, bottles, trash.
If somebody
it's-
leaves something on your property for 30 days, it would be assumed that they've abandoned it. So you should be able to take care of it.
Well, I got a boat right now that belongs to, I don't even know who. And I've been talking to the relatives, and one of the relatives here in the room. And they don't seem to want to get it off the property. And the minute I start touching it, now you're damaging somebody else's property. But we did get it off this one lot that they wanted it on. And I will say, 90% of my tenants through this big cleanup have been great. They have, well, we got over 30 yards of stuff, so they kind of came to the front. But a little of this changes every day with the tide. I guess that's about the best way. If there's something new that wasn't there 5 days ago, it's there now. So
But the mindset is still the same. You just, in what you've just told us, you told us it was the tenant's fault.
pardon?
In what you just told us.
No,
you
they're
told us it's the
refusing to let me
tenant's-
haul their
you told
stuff
us it's
away.
the tenant's fault.
Pardon?
In what you just told us, you told the select board again that it's the tenant's fault that you can't manage your property. And that cycle.
Well, I
has got to
can't
change.
take physically their stuff off the lot if they won't let me do it. If you think I can, I tried to move 2 cars. I had talked to the owner and she said she was gonna get them registered. They lied to me. And then the tow driver, I said, I'm having, you know, she said she could do it. Just to be sure, he called the police and they said, no, you can't tow these if she's against this. So we got her on the phone right there. He was right there. And she said, no, I don't want those gone. So what do we do? What do I do? I guess that's what I'm asking you. What do I do with these?
I'm telling you right now, if somebody abandoned a car in my driveway or on my property and it wasn't mine and I didn't own it, I'd have it towed away.
Well, why is the police,
You don't have a mobile home park. There's a difference there.
but why, if the police are gonna arrest me if we tow this off, why are you telling me to do this?
You own the property and you need to.
But I don't own the cars that are unregistered.
I don't think that's the way tenants should.
Okay, Eric,
Go ahead, I'm gonna back this up a little bit when I get my.
Well, I have a question.
go ahead there, Jimmy.
To kind of quote Julie, this is like Groundhog Day again. It's deja vu. We've all heard this. You know, as a neighbor, listen, I've been there. I lived in a trailer. I lived in a trailer park. We all know what it's like. We have nothing against the tenants. What we have is a problem with what's going on up there. And it sounds like they have the same issue. The things he keeps complaining about is something that can be rectified by, I don't know, a lease agreement that says you can't do this, you can't do that. Everybody's told them to get an attorney. An attorney's gonna cost him less than what these fines are gonna be. Get it taken care. How often are we gonna do that? Are we gonna do this every month, every 2 weeks? Are we all gonna continue to do this cycle over and over again? My heart bleeds for a tenant that's getting their water shut off. That is,
With Bobcat.
that is ridiculous. I would think that he's worried about towing a car that's unregistered, but he's gonna shut somebody's water off. That's mind blowing to me. But
Now, hold on.
it just, I really hope the board can make a decision and get this taken care of.
Again, you're talking to the board.
Okay.
You're not talking to the people.
No.
Ma'am.
So I live in the trailer park. I've been there since June 2022. Last winter, yes, we lost water a lot because one trailer was leaking. So my neighbor at the time, he could not find the leak. Went to every single trailer trying to find the leak. When the pressure gets low and gets too low, nobody's got water. He didn't turn it off. There's no water pressure to turn off. It's gone because somebody was draining that 6,000 or whatever water tank.
A lot of water.
I have those texts too, for them turning the water off.
So nobody liked having their water turned off. I certainly didn't like having my water turned off. Here I am, trying to go to work and trying to get cleaned up in a cold gallon of water. I did not like it, but I get it. I get it. Because if someone is purposely letting their water, leaving that leak on 24/7, the pressure is gonna get lower and lower and lower. Nobody's got water, so he's gotta turn it off to let the pressure build back up again. Once the pressure builds back up again, that same leak is draining again, and it's a vicious circle. It's fixed now.
It's a vicious circle, just like we're going through right now.
Yeah.
So, and we keep saying the same thing over and over again.
But
Mark?
the water issue,
Mark?
there was,
I'd like to propose something. One of the things that we've hit on, and it's been my major focus on this whole thing, is yes, let's get the park cleaned up. But my biggest thing is, let's maintain that. One of the things that I would like to propose to the board to consider is that we do some type of agreement, call it probation. I don't care what you word it as, but that goes on for a while, that allows us, when we do random inspections for the next year, if we find violations, that's a fine, plain and simple. Regardless of what you do and your decision on the fines and stuff like that, I would like to add that to this so that we can maintain, because without maintaining the park and we're going to have this vicious cycle. We need to cut that vicious cycle. And the only way to do that is people have to know that there's going to be accountability. There's going to be somebody going to do inspections. And if there's an inspection in the future, there's going to be a fine. No questions asked. So somebody's going to be motivated to do the work.
Again, it's not your job to be doing the inspections of the park.
No, but I think for the next
On a regular
year,
basis.
from a probationary standpoint, there's a little bit of muscle behind it.
We are a long way from maintenance.
Yes.
We are a long way from maintenance. This list still has
Mhm.
major things that need to be taken care of before we even get to maintenance. And.
But I think it needs to be added to it, Becky. I don't disagree with you at all.
But like, you throw out the word maintenance and it makes it sound like we're there, and we are not there. There is a lot of stuff going on here, and your town does not even touch on some of the state level issues that are going on there, because that's not your section, that's theirs, but the electrical situation is pretty dismal, to put it nicely. Just some of the things that are going on up there are unsafe.
Yes, I totally agree.
Back to when you said earlier about septic leaks and sprinkling gravel on it.
Mhm.
Is that a fix or?
It's, what it is that there was
If
a
septic's
contamination.
leaking And you're just throwing dirt on it.
So it's,
As a code enforcement officer, can I do that when my leach field? fails?
that would be the recommendation, is to seal that off. I'm
I
not
don't have
talking
to fix it?
sprinkling it. No,
No,
it
you
has
have to
been
fix it.
fixed.
Seal it, it's been fixed.
The
been
pipe
fixed?
that was the overflow has been capped. There's now an alarm system on that pump
Tank.
house and stuff like that. And that has been brought up to code,
Okay.
okay? The problem was that there was an overflow pipe that was installed that went out into the woods, so that when the pump failed, the level
How did that
rose.
pass, how did
and it
that
went.
pass inspection?
It didn't.
It didn't.
And there's no. Okay. That just seems, I mean, and this was before your time.
Right, and what,
It
what
just
we're,
seems very odd, that,
so the way to treat that is basically, if there was contaminated area, you basically
there is
bury it. for
contaminated
four-
area. That
Correct.
pipe's been overflowing for
Oh,
20
absolutely. I
years.
got pictures of it. Trust
Has it
me.
been dug out yet?
What's that?
Has it been dug out
Nope,
yet?
the recommendation
DEP
is you
been
seal
called
it
yet?
like you would. No, because it's the same idea as a septic field. It basically is going to percolate
It just
down.
Percolates
then
and runs
you're-
down the street and
No,
whatever.
no, it doesn't run down the street. Trust me, I wouldn't recommend that if it wasn't part of the
Well, it just
practice.
seems odd for 20 years that sewer's been leaking out of that place.
No, it hasn't been, it was one time the pump failed. And I'm in the process of putting a backup pump, but I haven't had the time to do it, okay? I have all the parts except one fitting to do that. But I want to bring something else up, and, because I am in negotiations with a party to buy my park, and I may not own it after the end of this year. So I'm just telling you this up front. Yeah, okay, and it might be good, you can take the focus off me. And I'm sure a new owner is gonna run the park differently, but I'm just telling you up front.
I just wanted to bring up the previous meeting. Some people were here, some people weren't, right? You tasked, the select board, I felt tasked Mark and myself with doing a reinspection X number of days, which we did today. You said to us, you want to know about significant improvement. Just bringing it back around entirely, they haven't made significant improvement. Right? There's been improvement, like Mark said, we don't want to just sit here and say there hasn't been. But to just bring it back around, what we were actually tasked with doing, that happened today. Unless Mark, I don't want to speak for Mark directly, but certainly that term significant, I wouldn't say.
Substantial.
Substantial, whatever the term may have been. I don't think they've met substantial improvement. Do you, Mark?
I would agree with that. I mean, there's areas that people I think have done a very good job, and there's areas where you can take a look, and I think the photos basically speak a lot, on their own. And then obviously I would, ask Ruben and Becky to chime in on what they saw as well. There's some definite areas that, have been improved, but they weren't huge problems. But there's still some areas out there that they need work.
If you hadn't shown me what had been fixed, I would have thought nothing happened.
So I think just to just bring it back around and remind everybody in the room what we were trying to accomplish, at least between last meeting and tonight. I think it's important that we discuss that topic, right? That inspection did happen today, and there's a lot of room to go. Especially in Mark's world. I gotta say, the household trash piece, the part where you deal with, trash that attracts rodents and so on and so forth has been dramatically improved. I will say that. But that doesn't take away from the electrical issues, which obviously we don't touch all of that, but there's just significant safety issues and, obviously anything dealing with a septic that's lacking full repair, at least to code standards, it's unacceptable and it's a health concern.
Sorry,
The last meeting, we said that we didn't see substantial, we were gonna have a fine of what, $2,500 a day?
Is it a day or per incident per day?
It was per day.
Per incident per
I
day.
believe that was Becky's motion.
So we're sitting at 60 in unresolved issues.
Board's thought on that?
So who decides what is substantial?
The 4 people who went out and looked,
Okay,
4 of us were out there today.
I was there yesterday.
I was in the last 2 days.
I was there, so they.
Excellent.
Fred?
They weren't together.
Again, I would like to ask, is if I could have an extension for 1 month to meet with you again, and then have time till the state requirements need to be met, and we come back and meet again. And that's about all I can ask for, because all this takes time, and some of the people, I'm just guessing, that are on that list are in this room, and I'm gonna go back to them and say, this stuff has to go. It's your stuff. Get rid of it. And I don't need to be fighting with the police and these people, my tenants. I just need some time, and I think they're gonna get it after this meeting. I'm surprised. I didn't ask anyone to come to this meeting from my park. And I see 1, 2, 3, 4 people here, which is incredible, in my opinion.
Actually, 7 of them would have come, 12 of them would have come if they had rides.
I talked to most of them.
I told them.
I encouraged everybody who lived in the park who called to come to this meeting tonight.
Simply just delaying. I don't.
And they were told, and I will tell you, a lot of them called and they said that they were told not to come to the meeting. And I said, this is a public meeting. Everybody is always welcome at a public meeting in the town of Waldeboro. So I think probably most of the people that are here, I talked to, and they wanted to have their say.
I have no problem with
I'm
that.
happy to move my couch and my fridge in as soon as I get home, for the record. It was a mess today, now I'm moving it.
Go ahead.
I mean, my lot was not even on the list. So where I live now is not on the list. However, I would like to see stuff resolved as well, because it just gets out of hand. It's ridiculous. Landlord showing up whenever he feels like it, doesn't give us a notice. I'd like to get it all fixed and figured out, because there shouldn't be any reason of it. I have young kids. I shouldn't have to have my dog barking because someone's knocking on my door at 8 o'clock at night.
Or on your kids' window.
That's ridiculous.
We have to cover
Like,
our kids' money.
there's a lot that needs to be changed up there, for sure. And there needs to be a new lease put out and figured out.
And rules.
And rules, a lot of rules. There's a speed limit sign up there. You know how many people I have on my camera going through there at about 90 miles an hour? My camera system just got cut about 3 weeks ago. I made a report into the police department. It hasn't been figured out yet, but I should feel safe in my own home. 12 of my security cameras got cut. Should be no reason for that.
Do you all have a list of things? Is there a way that we can get a copy of that also?
Sure. It's public knowledge, yes.
You know, it sounds to me like, Fred, you need to get together with your tenants and have a good discussion on what really goes on in that park, because obviously you get some.
Well, there are things that happen. I
You have
don't
some
even know
tenants,
about.
you have some tenants in here right now that are not very happy with the way you run your park. So,
I get along with everyone, so I'm calling you a drug addict in the meeting.
Well, she doesn't have electricity. She's unhappy about a lot of things.
But I would fix that.
But this isn't, again, I'm trying to resolve.
we're not gonna go around in circles.
I know we've gone around and around.
One last question, Jimmy, you got.
Jimmy had her.
I'm kind of feeling like it's not their job.
Right.
And that's, and you guys need to understand that. It's not your job.
But we have to.
You don't need the list. You just need to follow the rules. He needs to have the rules. It's his job. It's his job.
I just think everyone follow those rules.
Exactly, it's not you, I feel bad for you guys. You guys have little kids. You shouldn't have to
I
deal
mean,
with
my
all that.
fiance, he's a lobsterman. He's gone at 3 o'clock in the morning, like. we
But,
kinda have to-
I mean, that's.
Guys, talk to the board.
All right,
Yeah.
all right, let's reel this back in here a little bit, so back to what the board's pleasure is gonna be. Thoughts?
I'll do it. Forget. $500 fine per day for the next 2 weeks. And then he can come back and then we'll adjust it from there. From now on. So for the next 2 weeks, the next select board meeting.
And we'd like to see I'd like to see your lease agreement and your rules. Just for sake of knowing
Well,
what our
can,
citizens are their expectations from the landlord.
okay, I can give this to the tenants,
Wait, we need a
but it
second
won't go into
before we
effect for
discuss
30
it.
days. You have to
We
understand.
need a
That's the
second
main law.
before we can discuss it.
There's a motion on the table.
I want to amend that motion
Okay.
to add, for us to have the lease agreement and the rules.
Okay.
I'd like to be able to see these.
Okay. Yeah, I'll make a motion to amend that draft lease agreements.
Yeah,
Okay, so wait, what? Simmons?
So Simmons was the 500,
Yeah.
then Blodgett amended it to be lease agreements and rules. And then Thayer amended it further to say draft lease agreements and rules.
Let's ask a clarifying question.
okay, now we can discuss.
It's not a complicated one. 500 a day flat or
Flat.
per, okay,
It'll be too complicated to deal with.
that's fine. I just wanted to,
Per offense,
okay.
so.
Can I repeat it
Friendly
back
amendment.
to make sure I have it correct?
Yeah, you still won't have a second.
Yeah, right, second it.
I'll
Second.
Okay. I'm the only one that didn't amend it or make it or clarify it, so I'll second it.
$500 per day for 2 weeks, come back, adjust the fine with a lease agreement of rules and a drafted lease. With a, no, okay, but wait, with a drafted lease and the rules.
A drafted lease for all tenants.
I mean, if you've got multiple leases from, or multiple agreements with multiple tenants, then I guess we need to see multiple copies of whatever you have with whatever tenants you have, but it would
Should be
make
one.
sense if you had one and everybody signed the same thing and then everybody would know.
One lease, yeah.
Yeah,
Any more discussion from the board? Chuck, if you just want to add something, but we're not gonna change our,
I get that. I just want to voice my disappointment with the board because you had last, 2 weeks ago, you had said the fine was gonna be $2,500 per day per violation if it wasn't substantially complete now. And now you've gone back to just $500 a day for 2 weeks. We've been going through this for 20 years. I'm just disappointed that you backed off as much as you did.
What amount would you like to see if it wasn't the 25, 24.99? I know, me too, but
Well, I guess to me, there's a huge difference between $2,500 a day per violation and down to $500 a day flat. I mean, that's a huge difference. You know, we need to put pressure on this guy to get stuff done. I mean, I'm gonna be in, this is a different issue, in taking up your code officer's time with other issues that I have.
I guess I would just say to that there has been movement. And I would rather see him spend those other funds, not just on maintaining fines, but on actually putting that money to work. And that's what I would encourage you to do. We are imposing a fine on you and we're gonna re-inspect in 2 weeks. And if we aren't seeing that this thing is continuing to head in the right direction, I personally, I won't speak for the whole board, but I would then say, well, you know, that much money didn't talk, let's go up. That much money didn't talk, let's go up. That's what that would be my position. It is imperative that these issues be taken care of so that your tenants have a safe, appropriate place to live. And these are all within your control. And that's what you need to address with, whether you address it yourself or whether you get your tenants to address it and come on board to address it. That's your option. So spend the money because
I don't have a problem with
you're either gonna
do it
spend the
legally.
you're either gonna spend the money on fines or you're gonna spend the money on cleaning the place up and getting it to be safe and appropriate.
so, you know, this is part of the discussion before we vote on this.
Yeah.
And just to echo what Becky said, there has been some movement. I was up there yesterday riding around and I could see some movement, which is probably, you would agree that in the past few years, you haven't seen that movement. But now we're starting to see some movement. And all we can do is see what the board is I'm gonna vote on here and just keep moving forward, and hopefully we can clean this up even more. All in favor of that motion? Opposed? Stay.
Meeting with September.
Oh, wait, here
Can
again?
I get a copy of what you gave them?
Weeks, 2 weeks, September 23rd, September 23rd.
Is that,
No, well, it is, but I wrote some notes on the back.
can I get what you gave them?
You meeting outside here or?
Okay, now we'll move on to 11.2. Process health update.
I have it. I'm sorry. I was answering a question that somebody had. I have it. Hold on. Cost to remediate the building was less than 30,000, so the town can decide these two things. We were trying to put it into the main trails grant, which we are currently preparing. So if you would like to wait and see if we get it into the main trails grant so that we can demolish it, that's one choice you have. That grant has to be in, I believe it's mid-October. You could also use TIF funding to pay for mediation. And Max was pursuing something with the DEP and the EPA through a RECRA designation, which we have, but he was told that that would not be feasible because it's too low of a cost to qualify for that.
So we need to make it cost more?
Well,
So
I don't think we want to make it
No, I
cost
know.
more, but so we can either try in the main trails grant, which is due in October, and we can wait and see what happens. Or we can potentially use TIF funds and appropriate the TIF funds.
that to remediate the asbestos was,
Correct. And then
didn't
tear
we
down
already
the
have
building.
money set aside for that?
Not the. No, we were hoping to get a grant for that.
And that 30,000, that's just for the asbestos abatement.
Correct. And then we have to
Then we still have
demolish
to
it.
demolish it.
Correct, but that's something we could do. Remember, Public Works could do
Right.
after the asbestos abate. Did I say that right? I sometimes stutter. with
We know
that.
what you mean.
You know what I meant. But again, that's where you're at. You either wait and try to get the grant funds that would cover it. Or we would have to pursue using our TIF funds. I would get a balance of what we have left in the TIF. to use.
Just to clarify, that was 30,000 for abatement and demolition or
It was
just abatement?
30,000 for abatement.
Only abatement, so we still have a nugget after the,
Well, you're gonna use, if you wanted to have a company do it, and I believe the last quote on that was $50,000.
so the total bill would be
Would
80,000.
be 80, but then I think you guys had decided that you wanted to use, we could use Public Works to demolish the house. With their equipment. We have an extremely good operator. They couldn't do AD Gray, but they definitely could handle a house.
Okay.
I mean, I'd like to spend as little of TIF on something like that as possible and use it for other
I
things.
wasn't, unless TIF could be paid back through the grant, that's.
I guess if I were thinking about it, I'd want to pursue the grant first, and if that fails, then consider TIF. Feels lower risk.
I mean,
than TIF.
we'll know by probably the end of November, beginning of December.
Okay.
Again, this is one of those things we keep going round and round.
A Groundhog Day.
Yeah.
And I will be honest that a lot of the focus once shifted to getting this trails grant because it's readily available. And we have we believe we have a very strong application to get this trails grant. And the Land Water Trust, Conservation Trust Fund grant for actually the facilities at the former site where the concrete pad is, because I'm not allowed to say.
How
what I'm
about you say
talking-
the community park?
At the community park, where there is a concrete pad that is going to become an amazing park. That's where the focus of our time has been spent. Not so much on the Hofstas house, but on the grant funds that are available, because we love to spend other people's money.
I mean, at this point, we've, I can't do the math in my head quickly for how many weeks we've had the Hofstas house on the radar. Probably longer than I've lived in this town.
Try years.
Right. So if we wait 10 more weeks,
You'll know.
what are we giving up?
We're not
Like,
gonna
we're
give
not
up
giving
much.
up much.
Well, at least a couple weeks, John will have to drive by it.
Yeah. A week. It won't be shut down.
A
for more
week,
than
can we say a week? Knock on wood, that 220 South will only be closed for a week.
Blinders on.
I won't look at it. For
I mean, we're probably at 300 weeks, 600 weeks into the project.
I'm gonna say
Into the
since
thought-
2021.
Right, so
the thought
into
process.
thinking about it, 250 weeks, so if we wait 10 more, it's probably okay.
I will say that that area, this summer, looks a lot better. It's been mowed and kept nice, and Public Works done a good job keeping it clean.
I don't want people to think we're not working. It's just writing grants. You don't see us actually working at it, but you'll see the end result.
Okay.
But every time I do a budget, we see where that makes things better.
Mhm.
How about an LCTV update, 11.3?
I had a meeting with the county administrator. If you would like to send a letter expressing what you would like to see to the county, you are more than welcome to, but it does not appear, is my understanding from the county administrator, that every town would have to agree, even if there was going to be anything to pursue with LCTV on a county level, and how that would all look. It just doesn't really look like anything. But again, I don't think it's something that's going to happen. But if you would like to be on record one way or the other, either supporting or not supporting it, they would welcome a letter from you. But again, I don't think it's something that's going to come to fruition.
And we have somebody, Mr. Blodgett, attending those budget meetings, right? So if
Correct.
If
If it
if
became
it became a topic for discussion, he could bring it
So
back.
my
to us and we could
understanding,
submit a
my
letter at the time.
understanding was that every single town in the county would have to agree
Support.
and support it. And I am thinking that there are 3 towns that I can name off the top of my head
Yeah.
that probably would not. And there are towns already that.
Does that not seem like it would be an unusual handling of a budget item though? Because we usually presented with the full budget to make a
It's
decision
not
on.
gonna, yeah, I don't.
So that seems. That seems out of,
So I don't think that it was ever the intention of the county
okay,
I can say this with certainty. It was never the intention of the county to ask them to become a department of the county. I think that was something that whoever at LCTV decided to make that a presentation to the county. That was not something that the county asked of LCTV.
Right.
What they asked, I believe, was about cameras. And that led to
Mhm.
a proposal that they did not ask for.
Okay.
So I don't think it's going anywhere, but
I don't think it's worth our time unless it comes up. And John, if you're gonna be in any of those,
or Mike.
or Mike or
Somebody.
whatever. I watch those online too, and it hasn't come up on they do a great job presenting their county commissioner meetings. And it's been on their docket, but no one's talked.
But I expressed what I knew the concerns of the board were and the concerns of the budget.
Yeah.
I expressed that.
Thank you.
thank you.
We good on that? Would have go.
He must have real hard feelings on LCTV one way or the other.
I don't know. He excused himself, though. I do remember.
11.4. Cell tower moratorium request. We have a request. Someone come and talk to us about a request.
Amy Ford. If you can come right up to the
We can
dais,
hear you.
that way people can hear you.
Hello. Yeah, so I'm here to request the select board hold a special town meeting within the next few weeks to debate and vote on a proposed warrant article to establish a 6-month moratorium on any and all construction of wireless telecommunications facilities, towers, structures outside the area our land use ordinance already sets aside for such towers. Or a revised request would be to include the same warrant article on the November 2025 ballot. The town's current land use ordinance limits the placement of wireless telecommunications towers in Waldoboro to within 300 yards of Route 1. The ordinance has helped to maintain the integrity of our small country downtown and has helped to keep neighborhoods from becoming industrial parks. It's concerning to have learned that a cell tower company may seek a waiver to essentially circumvent the town's ordinance and build a tower on Friendship Road. The town's ordinance has helped to insulate the town from the potentially negative impacts of wireless telecommunications towers. We've thus far avoided reductions in property values, which are both a potential source of personal wealth and a source of municipal real estate revenue. Losing our scenic way of life, which is purposefully not a cityscape, adversely impacting wildlife and related public health concerns, about which there is a growing body of evidence of biological harm from exposure to towers' RF radiation. This is a multi-layered issue with many questions that need answers. So I'm asking that we please allow the time it takes to more thoroughly understand our options based on current research so as to meet the full scope of concerns with as considerate and readied an approach as can be. Thank you.
Questions from the board?
So just a couple of sort of procedural type questions. So I think we've missed our questions for the November ballot should have been in last week so that printing could happen, so I don't think that.
I submitted an open letter to the select board last week.
But we needed to have that.
Oh,
We have to have it printed and then it has to
Okay.
be available 30 days before a vote so that absentee ballots can be handled and that sort of
Oh.
thing. So I would defer to Pam as to whether or not that is even like timeline even possible.
Gotcha.
So that's sort of one question. And the other one has escaped me as I've.
The law is that you have to have absentee ballots available 30 days prior to the election. And our ballots are printed Midwest at a very secure location where they are coded and counted. And they obviously take time to do that because they don't just do Maine, they do the entire nation. So I have deadlines that I have to meet in order to meet the state's requirement. The option of hand counting a homemade ballot, so to speak, would be very, very costly because you have to pay people to do that, which is not really in my budget for this year.
My other question.
Go ahead.
Then my other question is typically when we have a citizen type request, we get a petition that's been signed by a number of people, and so I'm
Yes.
wondering if you've considered that process.
Which I-
We may consider.
Yes, I'm sorry to interrupt you. So
Okay.
that accompanied the open letter that was left
So
last
the
week.
requirement is 10% of the last gubernatorial election, which would be a minimum of 250 signatures.
Okay, I thought that that was if it was not going to the November ballot. I'm not sure. I mean, I didn't
So
get that
I
message.
think
but-
there's a couple of things in play here. One is the select board can, if you decide to, hold a special election. We've had in the past, and I know this particular group of select board doesn't typically like special elections. But you do have the ability to put something on the warrant. And you still have that ability to put it on in November. But like Pam said, it would be a cost to doing that. You would have to we'd have to print up, I mean, we could do that on a copier. We did it with the non-binding referendum, but then we had to hand count, and you would have to pay for that. So those are the options. Typically, you get a petition with the 10% of the last gubernatorial election. They started this process back in June, then pulled it, and then this came back. I think it was last week. It was last week, and that's why it ended up on your agenda. I wanted to make sure that you guys were aware of it and that you could make a decision. And I did let everybody know that some of you guys aren't, this particular group has not always, I don't think this particular makeup of the select board has done a special town meeting. Our previous makeup of our select board has done special town meetings. Amy, could you maybe talk about what exactly your expectations of the committee would be that you're asking for?
Yeah, I think that this is an issue that has, it's just so multifaceted that it's not so black and white as to yes, this and no, that. So that it just takes time to understand everything that we need to consider, because this is kind of the precipice, that we're on, especially with how fast moving technology advancements are happening. That are we prepared? Are we prepared for the scope of what we're being asked to consider here? And it's kind of like, it's almost like not knowing the information that we need to know to make a decision. And so just in the research that I've been doing, there's so much to it that I just feel like for us to be mindful of making, progress or steps away from what our land use ordinance is already covering and taking care of, that we don't do that in haste, that it takes time to do the research. So in each of these areas, whether it's the property value or the aesthetics or the public health. So I've got a binder full of stuff that I've been madly printing for my computer, because it just there's just so much.
So part of the issue with this and the waiver that Amy referred to is that even though our ordinance is very clear in the written word that it's along the Route 1 corridor, a carrier can get an FCC waiver. And if they can prove that there isn't or that there isn't service in an area, which based on, and bear in mind, we do not have an application before us. We do not have an application
I was gonna
before
ask
us.
that.
But if they could prove that this was an underserved area, that there was no cell service, say in South Waldoboro, they could get a waiver from adhering to our ordinance. That can happen. And there are certain things under the FCC rules that we could not consider in our ordinance. That are strictly regulated by the FCC, that in the beginning, I'm so old, I am so old, that when cell towers first started being built, there were things that you could consider that the FCC took totally off the table. So a lot of the discussions surrounding the RF radiation, health concerns, there's things that we can't regulate that the FCC regulates. Whether they're current or not is a debate, but having that debate isn't really going to be something that we can't model our ordinance off a debate that's already off the table. But I think what they're asking for is time to look at that and potentially make the ordinance better. One of the things that I let Amy know too was be careful what you ask for. Because although that neighborhood may be, concerned about a potential cell tower, when you put something on a town meeting or referendum, you get input from other areas of town too. That might want cell coverage. So if you're going to put it on, just know that you might not like the answer that you hope to get out of it, because people could vote no, because they may want cell coverage, or they may be happy with the location because it's not near them. So just be aware of all those considerations. And again, we don't have a application yet. It was posted in the newspaper, because there was a federally requested, if a federally mandated posting in the paper. But like I said, we haven't had an application, potentially, although it has not been confirmed. There may be a meeting coming up with a tower company. And just so everybody's aware, this is not a carrier we're dealing with. This is a tower company that builds towers. And I believe it's so that they can attract carriers.
Yeah, they lease space.
They lease space. I do not know if they have a particular carrier in mind or not. But that's really all we know. Like I said, there was a potentially scheduled meeting. I think it was around the 21st. We have not gotten any confirmation of that. Everything's kind of gone quiet. So this is really like the first public outing of this.
Are you raising your hand?
No, that's my.
Okay. So what I'm hearing from you is regardless of what we put into any kind of ordinance, the FCC can make an exception.
Potentially, yes. Now, what we could do, and well, not we, not the select board or me, but if there is an application. If there is an application, there are things that the carrier, the tower people could be required to do by the planning board. So they can ask for an RF study, independent RF study. They can ask for a balloon test so that they'll float a balloon to the height of what the tower is going to be so that you could see what it would look like from all over the place. So there are things that the town, well within its rights, the town planning board can ask for. Again, like I said, we don't have an application. We don't know exactly where it's going to be located on this potential piece of property. So I think those are items that I wish I knew the answers to, but I don't. But there are some things that the town can do to ensure that when this tower company, if they were to appear and say, hey, we have this waiver, we can still say, well, that's great, you have the waiver, we'd like to see the data, and we can ask for independent data to verify that. And that would be borne on the cost of the tower company.
But then with that, I guess a follow-up question to that is, with that information, what then can we do if it's not outlined in our ordinance? So based on these assessments, wouldn't we want to then be able to be involved in the next step?
Unfortunately, with the RF, I don't think there's much we could do.
There's no local control when you're dealing with radio frequencies.
There is no, exactly, there is no local control.
And that is potentially a negative because once they put a tower up and the carriers have their equipment on it, nobody is regulating it. And so if we do that RF study from the get-go and we have a number then, as far as what the emissions are, okay, great. And then what? Because nobody else is going to do.
It would have to fall within the FCC guidelines.
Sure, but then.
And I understand what you're saying
Okay.
is, but what if the FCC guidelines are wrong?
Well, but then also just technology changes. And so today the equipment has this emission. What's to say down the road, it's not a different emission or things aren't as they stay. And so having, you know, a recurring touchstone, there isn't any obligation for that.
To clarify my statement, when I say there's
Oh.
no local control, I don't mean one, when you put, we'll pick a 5.9 gigahertz antenna for whatever, however many Gs you want your cellular signal. There are rules and regulations for output levels and frequencies and all that stuff. That is actually very strictly
Sure.
controlled. What I'm saying is there are certain things that we could never actually do with a moratorium that would have an effect. When you're talking about building communications gear at that scale, there's not a lot we can say about it. This is the wrong group to stop that. And it's not that I disagree with you. You know, I want to see the data. If you have a digital version of your binder, I would love to run that through an AI and have it teach me.
Goodness.
No, send me a giant
Really?
PDF. I have a huge amount of computing power available to me.
Oh, okay.
But we can't say, hey, T-Mobile, you can only run these frequencies at this power level, you know, stuff like that. We can ask for that RF study. We can ask questions like, hey, whoever you get on this tower, are they going to adhere to those things? You know, you'll hear about cellular companies putting in a frequency that interferes with a red zone or a wireless ISP or something like that. And we can ask that they be held to those standards that are pre-established, but that's about all
And
we
we
can
could
do.
also ask that anytime new equipment is put on, that they redo those studies. So almost like every time a piece of equipment goes on there, it's almost like it's like a new application.
So a question about whether or not our hands are tied, like the FCC has this regulation, we have to just comply. We're in the First Circuit municipality, our municipality is in the First Circuit. And my understanding, I'm totally learning a lot through this, is that if there is a gap in service and then the FCC can say, we can address this gap in service, they do need to do it in the least intrusive means, by the least intrusive means. And the placement of this proposed tower, it would be hard for me to understand that it's considered a least invasive mean. So there are things like that it's like a nugget of information that a blanket statement around, well, the FCC says, but then there is this piece. Or even just the fact that you made it clear that this is a tower, not the carrier. Well, so does the tower, can it really prove a gap in service if it's not the carrier? You know, so there are just some questions around it. And I guess to you, Ruben, too, whether or not a moratorium would make a difference. It feels like it's great to run these scenarios because then we can say, well, maybe we do need to have language around this so that we are still kind of ahead of the curve and anticipating even, like that's what the brainstorming does, is it helps us to see the full scope of it so that we can say, are we as prepared as we think we are? Or shouldn't we be able to say it's not just a carte blanche, you know, town roll over and do whatever the FCC says, because I'm not an expert in it. And I think that there are people who are, and they would be able to say, here are what the town has as rights.
So
Melvin.
if we're gonna,
Melvin had a question. Go ahead, Melvin.
For you people that don't know, in the room are the select board. This cell tower proposal is going on my land that I have paid taxes on to the town of Waldeboro for 50 years. That the people from Blue Sky Towers was around last fall. They hire a guy, he covers the whole country, looking for spots to put cell towers that are underserved areas. Last time I talked to him, he was in Texas. That was back last January. I have a contract signed with Blue Sky Towers to build a cell tower that's 192 feet tall with a right-of-way to it. It will be 300 yards back of Route 220. They picked the spot. They've been there.
We
And
haven't,
from
like I
all the
said, we haven't
information,
seen that.
all the information that I got from our police department, our fire department, our EMS people, it's an underserved area. The county has real troubles. Whether they need Lincoln County down there or they need, it once they get there, because our communication system today is not like it was 40 years ago. A lot of it is, if you listen to a scanner, you get no information because they're on cell phone. They don't use airwaves like they did 40 years ago. It don't matter to me. I will never live long enough to see this cell tower to its potential. I don't even believe I'll live long enough to see it there. But it's a 100-year lease. That's all I have.
So one of the questions would be, like you said, about there are experts. Are you anticipating in this committee that there would be hiring of an expert?
It would be the committee to talk about it, so I think that it makes sense. It would be prudent to be as educated on it as we can be. So I try to learn what I can about it, but it's
So you're looking at having a town committee to do this, a committee appointed by the select board.
created even. I mean, it doesn't have to be an already existing committee, but I think that we're thinking that more heads on it are good.
I got to dance down here for everyone to see me.
John.
Have you presented any of your concerns to the planning board? Because that's
Well,
who.
technically they can't.
Okay,
They don't have an application yet.
They don't have an application, and if they did, that could be considered prejudicial.
oh boy. Look what I learned.
Bob? Can I go to? You can.
Make sure I'm heard.
We want to make sure you're heard too.
Oh,
Bob.
thank you. Bob Butler on Friendship Road. I first became acquainted with this through efforts Amy was undertaking because it's a tower. And it's something the town hasn't looked at since 2010. The last time we looked at this within the context of our ordinance was in 2010, when we increased the allowed height of towers from 47 feet to what it is now. So much has happened in the last 15 years. I mean, the technology's gone bananas. And I think it behooves the town to have a look at the ordinance, just to update it at a minimum. If not to discuss current FCC regulations and how the town interacts with those. It's an education tool for the planning board. But we're not going to have that tool unless we create it. So I'm not for or against the tower, but what I am for is knowledge and not going down a path that we don't see. I think we owe it to ourselves to be educated on this. And I think one of the best ways of doing that is to have one of our committees or appoint a new committee to look at it. The moratorium issue, I think we can do that. I mean, we could do our own ballot. We've done it in the past. You're going to hire people to count ballots in November anyway. There'll be one more set of ballots for them to count. It'll cost some money.
Just so you know, the last time we counted ballots, it was a whole day after. So it's not like it's going to be done that night.
I got that. No, I get it. And it's not going to go through the machine either.
It would not.
No, it's going to have to be hand counted. So I understand that. But yeah, I really think we owe it to ourselves to learn and to educate, to create tools for our planning board and to inform citizens in town about this whole subject matter, because things are happening awfully fast. Thanks.
And I can appreciate that, Bob. However, the only reason we're even talking about this because people heard there was gonna be possibly a tower in South Waldeboro.
Well, it's an opportunity that's been given to us.
That's right. That's the only reason why we're saying, let's have this discussion, this committee.
Yep,
You know,
it's a wake-up call.
I'll speak quite frankly. I live in South Waldeboro and I'm tired of standing on the roof with my right hand up or left hand up, my phone, trying to get signal to talk to someone on my cell phone. I was on the fire department 15 years. I can remember more than one occasion going south on a fire truck and you couldn't communicate with Lincoln County or PD. We had a PD incident probably, gosh, 15 years ago or so. It was very, very serious. That officer was in a lot of trouble and he couldn't reach anyone
5 years.
because he didn't, I'm talking about the one way
Well, I'm
back.
just saying there's been others since then.
That it was, I mean, that was statewide news, and that officer was in trouble in the woods and he couldn't reach anyone. Had he had a tower in the southern part of the town with a repeater on it, there's a good chance that people would have heard him. So that's how I feel about him.
I think lobstermen and climbers would like to see that tower too. I know I've gone south of the Narrows down to Bremen, Long Island. And the coverage is close to non-existent.
Becky?
So I kind of heard two different things. I've heard a request for looking at a moratorium, and then from Bob, I more heard let's relook at the ordinance. And I think those are two very different things to say, hey, we haven't looked at this particular ordinance since 2010. Let's take a look at it and see if there is anything we would change or modify.
I think the moratorium is
It
hopeful.
specifically addresses, it's a reactionary to one tower being requested.
Correct.
And that's different than looking at the ordinance as
I
a
think it's
whole.
just so that potentially if there are issues that with this tower, it would
But we don't even have an application.
not yet.
I have a question. Bob, are you in favor of the whole ordinance being looked at or the wireless telecommunications facility section of it?
It's section 28.
So the moratorium for the purpose of looking at the section of the land use ordinance that's particular to this topic.
I'm almost positive that a review like this has happened in other small towns in Maine. And if you give me a couple of weeks, I could probably find that out and come back to you with something detailed. If it somehow hasn't, then I would want to form or reform something like the CTC to look at that. Separately, I'm never against reviewing an ordinance, but I think those two things might be parallel tasks.
So through the EDC.
I don't want to create another committee.
No, I don't either.
We got
enough committees.
But yeah, it could be a sub piece of the EDC. That's where the broadband committee came from.
That's where it should be.
No, I'm just reading that. I'm reading that.
Bob's.
I think Ruben's line is a good one. You could create a subcommittee of EDC that would allow other people to come in.
Yeah.
And participate.
The one thing too, Ruben, because Ruben just reminded me of something. You asked a question at the last meeting about this when I brought it up.
You're gonna have to remind me what I asked you.
You asked about the fact that we are now fully wired with broadband
And little things that go on the tail.
Oh,
and
Yep.
the 5G cellular.
5G small cell. We have 0.
Okay,
That would require, pick a carrier. Those carriers would need to get permits to attach to poles to put those up there. What we have that they were missing, and the reason it wouldn't work before, is you can do that 2 ways. You can feed a small cell with fiber, or you can repeat the signal. When you repeat a signal with nothing in between, you can only do it once or twice before it all goes to hell. That is one of those things. The easier it is to describe, like let's take fiber to every home, the harder it is to do. There's a reason they build really tall towers for these multi-band things, because that's what works to get coverage to places in an inexpensive way.
Okay, because you had asked that question and I didn't have an answer for you. So obviously you found the answer yourself.
Yep.
Because I mentioned that, he had mentioned that and I,
Yeah, and what happens when that tower, that pole is knocked down?
Well, this gets into opinion, and I won't go on at length about it. When you have a bunch of 5G small cells, they do two things. They are individually lower power, so if you have an RF sensitivity, the signal doesn't travel as far from that base. But two, you have more of them, so you can take a pole out and a lot of them will still stay on. They're also, one's not a replacement for the other. It's an ecosystem. You get your fiber base, you have towers, and then you have the small cells for places that need to fill in shadows or to do short range, really high speed stuff.
You're losing it.
Google it.
Gonna have to watch.
My
that a
point
few
is,
times.
these things all exist at the same time. They're all one ecosystem. One isn't a replacement for the other.
And I've also heard some downsides to the 5G small cell as well, so. And then questions come to mind, you know, so this is just the nature of it, and I feel like it just behooves us to allow time for these questions to be considered and explored and, you know, just collaboratively look at this instead of just feel like, yeah, that we just have no more say.
so one of the things is if we are expecting to expend funds for this, that definitely requires being on a warrant. So if we're expecting to expend funds, the voters have to vote on that, just, so that would have to be included. If you're thinking about putting this on the November ballot, there should be a monetary amount that goes in because it wasn't planned for in the budget.
No, we couldn't, yeah, it has to be budgeted.
Correct, and it would need the town's approval to budget it. That's what I'm saying. So if you're gonna have the question and you're gonna set up a committee, you need some type of a if we're expecting to use any type of expert, you're gonna need a monetary a figure to put into that question. That's,
We should also ask the county if they've already done that work, because there's other sites inside Lincoln County that have way more recent tower builds. That might be another thing worth repeating. That might just get you where you want to be faster. At the very least, get us educated faster. And if they don't have the info, then we know to loop them in on what we're up to.
Pleasure of the board.
I don't want a moratorium, but I will say that I think the EDC should look at the wireless. I think that's the committee it should go to and see what potentially needs to be changed, but I mean, I'm with John. I travel up and down 220 for, I don't know, I get the same cell number that I've had for, my son's 32, so probably 28, 29 years. And for some reason, the signal, the phones are getting better, but the signal sucks. It's gotten worse. And when you're in South Waldeboro, you have no signal. And it's just me. Imagine like fire, EMS, the police department. I've heard the same thing, same concerns. When they get a call down South Waldeboro, there's 2 officers that go because they will not go alone because they have shoddy cell service and they have shoddy radio service.
The good news about that is one of the reasons that happens. Newer radio signals are higher frequency and lower power. The old stuff would go right through you. Old analog was way worse for you. This new stuff bounces off you, but that also means it can't go through trees and buildings and things like that like it used to. Same thing with modern Wi-Fi. It's a lot faster. It doesn't go through people. It bounces.
we are no longer on the digital system, just so everybody's clear, through communications through Lincoln County. We were on digital for about a year. It was not working because there was not enough towers,
Was
so
that
we're
FirstNet?
back to analog. No,
No? Okay.
we're back to analog.
Okay, well, the analog I'm describing is different from what you're talking about,
Okay, well,
it's not gonna hurt anybody.
I know enough to be, it's just because it became such an issue with us, with the new digital system that they purchased.
Yeah.
That our officers you could not hear the calls. It was so garbled, and I think everybody on the select board then understood that. So they went back to the old system, which I guess is analog. Probably different than what you're talking about.
Can I ask a question? Yes.
Go ahead.
And whether or not, Abden, you want to explain a little bit further as far as not wanting the moratorium, but I'm wondering
I
if,
don't think we need one. I think they should look at the,
yeah.
at the ordinance. I think the EDC should look at the ordinance. That's the proper committee to look at it and make suggestions to the select board.
So part of the, and I'm hearing that and I respect that. And I think part of the purpose for having some time around it is because we don't yet have, we're not sure, what might be coming. And so if this can be us ahead of the ball, and that ahead of the curve, however you want to say it. But then it is a real concern, what you're expressing, John, too, that, so it's not so much yes, no, yes to a tower or no to a tower, but what are the options? And I feel like that's something that we haven't really had time to explore is there a way in which that can be addressed without it also having the impact that a tower in the neighborhood would, the impact that would have that's negative as well. So can we be creative and find out, but it takes time. It takes time to, if there's an alternative location or whatever it is, but that's not something that's easily done in a 10-day turnaround or a 30-day turnaround, which if there isn't a moratorium, then you're kind of looking at like the clock starts.
You would be using the current ordinance if an application comes in between now.
Which technically wouldn't allow it.
Correct.
Unless they get a waiver.
Unless they got a waiver, so
Which
it
if
could
they
be
get a-
moot anyways.
Which if they get a
Unless they
waiver, it
get a
doesn't
waiver.
have anything to do with us.
Right,
Comes from the FCC.
right.
So.
Right now, it's not allowed.
Right, so if our,
So apparently they've gotten some sort of indication that the FCC will allow it.
We don't know.
Right, I understand that, but the cell company or the power company has some sort of indication. They wouldn't just show up, and say, I want to put a tower here.
Mhm.
So they may thinking they're gonna get a waiver, so what we're trying to do right here is moot.
but except that,
Other than we can make changes to the ordinance to what requirements.
which is important, because if there isn't,
That is, but it's not gonna stop the tower.
but it may influence what's the way in which it's envisioned now to something else that could benefit multiple prongs of this issue
Mhm.
instead of just, the kind of big gun coming in and pow, like right in that, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it's gonna happen that quick.
And an 192-foot tower in a residential area is a huge thing. I mean, it has a definite visual and aesthetic impact.
So doesn't solar farms. I can't stand them, but then what we're stuck with them.
But solar
So
farms
aren't-
are
so
lower.
aren't windmills.
But I think the point is too, is that so when they do come, the FCC doesn't preclude us from getting a balloon test, which would fly
Right,
that
and that's-
balloon.
That's what I
to the
want to see
100
is.
And I am assuming, although I have not seen the lease,
Mhm.
that it allows for up to 194-foot tower. But the planning board could say, because they're gonna have to request, they're still gonna have to go before the planning board. We don't want a 194-foot tower. This is what you could ask them to fly at 194 feet. You could ask them to fly at 175 feet. And maybe that difference makes a huge, so I don't want everybody to think that just because if we don't have a moratorium, there isn't stuff we can ask for. It's not an all or nothing. We could
Oh,
still.
100%. That's why I say go to the EDC.
Okay, I just want to make sure
No,
that
no, and
everybody
I think
feels
the
like,
ordinance should be looked at. And then make the recommendations.
but I'm just saying,
to the
like,
select board.
even if there was not, even if they came in. There's still things that can be done. That would ensure that maybe it is more creative, like, no, it's not gonna be 194 feet, it's gonna be 175 feet.
And Julie, just to clarify, is that something that it doesn't have to be in the ordinance in order to ask for those things, or we can ask, but they don't have to comply?
No, we can ask for those, because
It doesn't have to be in the ordinance?
you can still ask for those things to be done,
During the
because they're
during the planning.
during the
stage.
planning board stage, not during our
Okay.
stage.
But then they have to comply?
They-
Or-
As long as the planning board.
If the
presents-
planning board says we want an independent RF study, or if the planning board says we want we wanna see a balloon test, we wanna see this. you can still have those things occur. You know, it's not like they don't have to comply. The waiver is about where it's cited. But we still have some jurisdiction, you know, you're not giving up total control, but a company isn't gonna typically, they're gonna know. They do this all the time. So we have to know what we can ask for. So we have to ask for, hey, we wanna see your RF work, but we also might wanna see an independent RF work, or they might say no, or maybe they already have independent RF work. But they also, having the balloon test is a great way, because full disclosure, I've seen a balloon test several times. It's a great way to actually see where you can see it from, how much it is intrusive into somebody's world. You know, are you going to see it? You know, how high is it going to be? Just because he has a lease for up to 194-foot tower. But the planning board could also put in that there should be an inspection of the tower every so often. I mean, there's things that the planning board has the ability to have. And if I were going to spend money on a expert, you know, we can require the tower company to provide, we can choose an expert and have an expert there that can guide our planning board. You know, we don't do that here. You know, for all the people that say, well, you know, Waldeboro might not be business friendly. I would say that we don't hold people at times to the level that we should, which is probably why we have the problem we had that we dealt with earlier on the agenda. You know, so, you know, if I were going to put money towards something, it would be towards that type of a thing, and I would make the applicant pay for it, hold the applicant responsible for what they're asking us to do. It shouldn't be the taxpayer paying for that applicant to come in and get reviewed. It should be them. So we do have some ability to control our future. It's just, I think that this opened the eyes, especially to those people in the neighborhood of, hey, what can we do? Is there a way to, and we went through this. I mean, we've been talking since June.
Well, we have, but
And we've spent a lot of time talking about it. I mean, even to the point of where could other alternate locations be? But again, we're not experts. And like I've said a couple of times, you know, maybe it turns out this isn't the location, but maybe the location's further down the road, one way or the other, you know. I don't know, you know, obviously they were in the area. They approached us about, if you'll recall, a tower at the transfer station, you know, $600 a month. You know, didn't seem like a lot for the town to have the tower and go through all the DEP approvals. They ended up in Noblesboro because once I started saying, well, you'd have to do X, Y, and Z, they went on to the next person. And now it's in Noblesboro. You know, it is what it is. But
I appreciate that, Julie, and I think that there's one of the things that you said that, again, I feel makes the point that a moratorium would be helpful is to know the full scope of what can we ask for. Like you had said, you know, recommendations to the planning board, here's what they should know to ask for or could know. And if there is another location, you know, like this isn't just stuff that drops out of the sky, you know, as far as the answers go. So yeah, I do still, I feel like there's a benefit to making use of the time that we have, because we have that. For how much longer, you know, I don't know. So can we make use of the time that we have?
We should switch next time.
Yeah, you switch seats. You guys gotta switch seats.
So, you know, my position would be that I'm not in favor of putting this on the November ballot just because of the timing and the expense that would be incurred. And I would sort of defer to Ruben saying, let's look at this and let's look at this and let's look at this. I'm really hoping, since you are the guy that understands this, that you can pull some of those things together for our next meeting so we can say, this is what another town has done, this is what the county work has already been done. And so for that reason, I would make a motion that we table this until our next meeting.
So we got a motion,
I'll second it.
motion is seconded, any more discussion?
Well. I want to hear the motion again.
To table this
Table this
discussion
until
to the
our
next meeting.
Okay.
Table it, and then I'm to get Lincoln County's tower information if they have any.
Yeah.
Whatever
and
Ruben can.
whatever
I'll do
they
some-
can
I'll do
cover,
some more
towns.
And somebody's going, and does that include Amy's digital file?
Yeah, if you can send that to me. I'll be happy to review everything you have.
Yeah, how to do that. We'll talk.
Okay.
I mean, if that means scanning everything, I don't know. I mean, just so let me know.
So what we can do is if you bring us the notebook or the binder,
Mhm.
we can scan it here,
Oh, okay, okay,
because it goes right into the.
okay. And then is it possible to meet and talk? Like, can we interact with you guys? I don't know, like, we couldn't with the planning board,
You
can we?
can't with the planning board.
Okay,
But you can with this board, so I would say the planning board and the
Okay.
Board of Appeals, you should not be interacting
Okay.
with, but the select board, but they can only meet two at a time.
Yeah.
oh, okay.
So, yeah, just so you know, if you send any of us any emails or any of that stuff,
Blind copy.
blind copy everybody, so that if we respond to you, we are not responding to the group.
Okay,
And that means we are not meeting outside of the public eye.
Or you could send it directly to me and I can distribute it to
Okay.
them,
okay,
just because they have to be careful of that.
yeah.
If three of us are in the same room or in the same email chain, then we are a quorum, and that means we are holding a meeting of the
Oh,
select board,
interesting.
and we cannot do that
Okay,
outside of the public purview,
Okay.
so.
okay, thank you.
For
There
clarification.
you go, question
Just
or comment?
curious, once the planning board process begins, what clock is running? In other words, there's a lot of information to come in. Once the process begins, then that really, I think, begins when the power company files an application with the planning board.
Does.
So how long can you defer an answer till you get your ducks together?
So you can't really defer, I mean, it's,
So you gotta say, you gotta decline it, because you don't meet the 300-yard rule.
right, and then they would have to request a variance, and that's when technically, I think that's when the waiver from the FCC comes in.
So you have no idea what the clock is.
It, like I said, they could show up tomorrow, they could show up 3 weeks from now, they could show up 6 months from now, or 50 years from now, according to Melvin.
There's a lot of variables out of our control, right down to, who politically runs the FCC at the time.
And I'm not even sure, and I don't even know if our so we did a moratorium for oysters in our river. And the state was very clear that that moratorium would be overturned in the court of law. There's nothing to say that we could do the moratorium. And they, based on how that would be worded or what we would do, that they couldn't anyway have that thrown out because it was prejudicial to this particular application. So there's a lot,
Yeah.
there's a lot to that. So, that's well above my pay grade as far as knowing the legality of that, but that would be a concern just because of what we experienced with the oyster
Mhm.
moratorium.
It's a
I
good
guess
point.
my,
But we did good with the marijuana moratorium, but that was also something that was sanctioned by the MMA. So I don't know what bought us time with, I don't know all the intricacies of that, but so just be careful. So we don't really know a timeline.
and my, I guess just to get to the point, it's really a question of siting, isn't it? That's really underneath this. There's a great big chunk of ground from Route 1 to Finntown Road to 220. And what's an appropriate choice is a matter of the technology, which none of us as beings, at least I don't. Newton Craig probably does, but what else is going on that tower? Just sounds a little bit like the cell phone argument. It gets you the tower. You make your money from renting other services off the tower. So there's just a lot of moving parts. There's many square miles of vacant ground. The question is really, what does it cost to put a road in there to service the tower? That's really sort of behind the siting argument.
And the siting argument is also what's their, based on what the FCC regulates the power output for,
Right.
is how close does it, where does it have to be to go? Cause it's got the drop zone where you're not gonna get service. And then how far out does it go? So you're right, like, unfortunately, I think, again, citing it is really their expertise of. I don't know if any other neighbors were asked other
I'm
than
just
Melvin.
And, own a place that's over a mile deep. Just a question, does anybody want to put the money to pay a road in there? There's just a lot of information to come in. And I'm just concerned about the time to gather and collate that information.
Do you guys know, was anybody else approached?
I do. There was 3 other people. Basically in that same area.
So they know that area is where they.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure that they've
Yeah.
figured
Yeah.
out.
I mean, that's not a huge surprise.
My,
You need a
my
one site.
place wasn't that first choice. There just wasn't room enough on the next, first choice, which was right behind Flipper's Market.
Right. We got a motion on the floor, seconded. Any more discussion? All in favor? Table it to the next meeting.
I got homework, which I will do.
And if you bring up the binder, I'll make sure that it's scanned and he gets it, if you don't mind.
Yes, no, that's fine.
I got flash drives if you don't.
Agenda items for the next meeting.
I might not have a flash
Well, we
drive
know
that big.
one will be the continuation of the cell phone tower. We're also gonna talk
Lady slipper.
and lady slipper. And discussion of the marijuana ordinance.
Do you want John Daigle to come and talk trash at that meeting, or do you want to put him off till October?
That give me enough time, but that's great. There's gonna be a long meeting.
Okay, so this first meeting in October, okay.
Anything else for the? You can think of?
That's enough.
There will be something, I'm sure, but
Julia, throw something
those are
else
the
out.
big ones.
Hey, I got you happiness tonight. We threw on a new police officer.
You did, that was a great start.
Wasn't that an awesome start?
Yeah.
Was it?
Talent show.
Plus the
Plus
talent
the talent
show.
show.
Oh, can we get the new police officer in the town show? He probably knows a song. You need him on.
With that